that's very emotional to me all the time is that the drug that they used on my daughter had like just come out that year. And they were like, well, if it was your son, we wouldn't have had this drug for him because he was just 3 years older than him. And it's the same genetics. It's the same genetic lottery. She got it. He didn't. But that was something that I always feel like so grateful to God. There's so many forms of intelligence. And it's really like, kind of polarized, like, your smarts or your heart. Really, the most intelligent people are those that work those two together. I got my smarts maybe from law school or from, that kind of a training, but I got my heart from what I went through with my daughter. Isn't it funny that we could only see the outside, but everything happens on the inside?
Hi, and welcome to Indian Explorers. In this podcast, we talk about Indian success stories. I am Sabrina, and together with my co-host Amit, we will get to understand the journey of our guests and what drives them. Their optimism, patience, idealism, and courage, these are their attributes which we hope to bring to life in these conversations with them. So if you enjoy the show, please hit the subscribe button and share it with others. Shalini Samtani is the founder and chief joy architect of Open the Joy, toys designed by therapists and backed by science so that kids grow up confident, resilient, and happy. She is also the president of the Spread the Joy Foundation, a movement providing hospitalized children with joy boxes, with toys designed to entertain, educate, and of course, spark joy. Her company has won several industry awards, and Shalini herself was recognized by the Tory Burch Foundation 2020 as one of the top female entrepreneurs nationwide. And we are so excited to learn more about you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This is so exciting.
Yes, so excited. So, Amitu, where do you want to start today?
I want to get to know Shalini. I didn't realize she's a fellow Sindhi as well. So can you give us your background, where you grew up? Were you parents from India, or did you grow up, were you born in America?
So actually, I was born in Hong Kong, of all places. My
True
parents were
Sindhi.
Sindhis, a true Sindhi.
Yes.
My parents were living in Hong Kong at the time. Then we actually moved to South America, Belize, Central America, Belize. I lived in Belize for a very short period of time. I don't remember, before I was 5 or 6 years old, we already moved to Canada. So my entire education was in Canada. So I actually learned French as well. And then when I got married, I moved to the United States, New York City. Then we moved to Jersey, and then now we're in Princeton. When you have kids, you just keep moving inland. That's what we did. And now we're finally in Princeton, New Jersey. So that's kind of my background. Very colorful. Seen a lot of the world, a lot of different cultures because of that. Love traveling.
I guess
And
it's
what
the
passport?
Sindhi way, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's our way.
we
What
moved a
passport
lot.
do you have now, Shalini? Are you an
Yeah,
American?
yes. I have an American passport, and I think I also have a Canadian passport as well.
Very cool. I want to get into Open the Joy. I am so fascinated by this company you started, but you're an attorney first, correct?
Correct. Yes, I went to law school in Canada. Went to McGill University. Graduated top of my class, but didn't use any of it. Didn't do it. Didn't use
Same
any of
here.
it.
I think I know I practiced for a couple years and then took the entrepreneur route as well. So let's hear how you took that route. What was the catalyst for Open the Joy?
So I would have never expected or dreamt that this is what I'd be doing today. Like never expected or thought that. It was actually my daughter's illness that brought me to this, kind of juncture in my life. But my daughter was diagnosed with a 1 in a million immune disorder when she was very young. So 8 months old, she was just, regular day family living in Jersey, the suburbs, white, everything with the white picket fence. That was kind of the life that we lived. And one day my daughter stopped peeing and we thought, okay, what's going on here? So we just took her to the hospital. And when we were there, they said, oh, we don't know what's going on. These numbers are all off. We're going to send you to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, which thank God in retrospect was so near my house because it's one of the top hospitals in the world. And it was just, but they were able to diagnose her within 12 hours or less than that of being there, that she had this 1 in a million, really, really rare immune disorder that had affected her kidneys. But I've, since then gone to conferences and met other people that have this similar disorder. And they are not diagnosed 10 years, 12 years into having this condition. So we were really blessed and grateful that she was very quickly diagnosed. We had a plan of treatment for her. We got her kidneys back. So, that was kind of the catalyst, but that kind of, we were in and out of the hospital for the first 3, 4 years of her life. There was a lot of different hospital stays. And, I think when I was there, I really fell in love with the work that was done by Child Life Services in that setting. So I don't know if you even know who Child Life Services is. I didn't know, but they're the ones who kind of allow a kid to be a kid in that setting. So they do crafts with them, they do games with them. And I remember this one day where it was like this just big aha moment for me. My daughter was so swollen because the kidneys weren't working, and her hands were so swollen. And the therapist came in and she was like, "Oh, let me do some games with her or paint with her." And I'm like, "Really?" Like I don't.
Like, is she going to
Good
be
luck with
able
that.
to?
I was
Yeah.
like, she used to just be like on me, like that was her position, like for
Oh.
12,
How old
14
was she
hours
at
a
the time?
day. She was small, so from 8 months till about 3 years is when we went through that kind of phase of her life. So I don't remember which specific hospitalization she was, but she was probably young, maybe 2 years old. But she was like this, like on me, and I was like, good luck with that, But the therapist was like, no, let me try, and she sat with her, and it's really such a beautiful memory because she took out a piece of paper and she told her, you paint. And my daughter couldn't do it. So she said, what color would you like the sun? And she was just my daughter was telling her like orange. So the therapist was like literally her hands and doing it for her. And I just saw this spark in my daughter. Like she came back to life just having somebody be her proxy and doing all this stuff for her. And I just over the days working with these folks, I was like, oh my God, these guys are like the unsung heroes of this setting. They're just so vital to the care of a child. And there was another incident where it was Halloween, and our whole hospital had put together like this trick or treat for kids, and there was like little things like slime, like dollar store kind of stuff in the U.S. We call it like kitro and Cindy, kitro
That's
puppy,
exactly what that is. Yeah.
Correct. So there was that's what they gave them. But when you saw my daughter light up, I was like, that's what it takes, like dollar store junk. Like her emotional state just changed like completely, and it didn't match her numbers. Like her numbers were down, but her numbers as in her hemoglobin reading and all of that stuff. But there she was, like just celebrating life, and I was like, okay, we'll do this. This is great, And then I just wanted to support them. So as I left the hospital, I used to just buy things in bulk and send it to them. And being a true Cindy, I realized I could get this cheaper by importing. And then I started importing this stuff, and little batches of importing all the things I thought would work for them. And then I started making kits for the hospitals. So that's how the whole nonprofit side of the business started.
Okay.
Uh, Aria, right? That's her name.
Yes,
How old
Aria.
is she? How old is she now? Is she like she okay?
She's 10. She's a warrior. She claims that Open the Joy and Spread the Joy are both her companies. She claims to be the CEO. She walks into every meeting she wants to. So
That's
she's a
great.
powerhouse and she's doing very, very well. We are so grateful. She goes to school like a regular child. She does that. She's a powerhouse. I'm really excited to see that child's
Yeah.
destiny.
And did she have a sibling when she was going through this?
She does. So she has a brother who's 3 years older to her, my son Shay.
Okay.
And the crazy thing about that's very emotional to me all the time, is that the drug that they used on my daughter had like just come out that year because the disease was so rare. A company called Alexion had just come out with that drug that year. And they were like, well, if it was your son, we wouldn't have had this drug for him
Wow.
Wow.
because he was just 3 years older to him, and it's the same genetics. It's the same genetic lottery. She got it, he didn't. But that was something that I always feel like, just so grateful to God, like, and that we were so near that hospital that knew to diagnose this. And, just so many stars lined up. So many things didn't line up, but so many stars lined up. And I rather count
Absolutely.
those.
I mean,
Yeah.
how many people have this and don't get it detected on time and go through
I
it
don't
for must be millions
know.
worldwide.
There's only like 200 people in the world that have it. It's like that
Oh, it's
rare.
that rare.
What
It's
is it
really rare.
called?
I don't know the exact stats, but atypical HUS. I'm not sure. I think 200 people have like her specific HUS. There might be more people that have it, but her specific DJKE mutation, so rare.
And
Wow.
they detected that in 12 hours?
The DJK came out about 6 months later, that was her specific mutation because
Got
they
it.
had to do genetic testing, but the actual disease they detect, I think it was under 12 hours that they detected it
Well, that's also because
Fantastic.
you were at one of the best children's hospitals in,
in the world.
in the
Yeah.
world. If you were at, just, I don't even want to pinpoint one hospital, but just, an average hospital, they could have sent you home and said, no, she'll be fine.
Yeah, no, 100%. And even if you think of like, I remember like my cousins in other countries, it was like, well, aren't you lucky to be living where you are? And even when they made us make the decision, do you want to go to this one or this one? They're like, this is kind of funky. We don't know what's going on. Why don't you go to that one? And we're like, okay. And we went to the bigger hospital and.
I can't think of anything worse than sick children. Like,
Correct.
forget what's happening in Israel, Palestine, yeah, but just dealing with sick children. My sister in law is a neonatologist, right? I didn't know they had ICUs for like, for like, what's it called? NICU, like
Hmm.
neonatal ICUs. And when she comes home and I'm in Miami on holiday and I've just spent 6 hours in the pool and had a couple of drinks, and she comes and she asks me, how was your day? I look at her and I go, how was your day?
Yeah.
What she's just been through the whole day. And they do these 36-hour shifts, as you know, where they take care of babies all night long. And I'm thinking, wow, like how dare I complain about my day when I see what other people go through? I think it's just such an admirable profession to take care of children, sick children, premature born babies. I have like no words of how much I admire and respect that industry, and the fact that you are, created your company and helping the children in hospitals. I think it's just incredible. I want to learn more. I want to learn what can the normal person do. Like, how can Sabrina and I help what you are doing, spread the word, and let's start there.
Yeah, so spreadthejoy.org is the website. You can go to the website. And of course, donations are always welcome. It's a 501(c)(3 in the United States. It's a registered charity. And we do something, we've evolved over the year where we really partner with corporations a lot. And what we do is something called packing parties. So what that means is that we figured out something beautiful. And of course, because it's what healed me, but it's like there's so much joy in giving. So, the joy of actually making these kits and, sending them to the hospitals, I think there's just so much joy and healing in that process. So we figured out that people really like doing this. So we partner with like a lot of corporations. And we go to their head office and we take all of the supplies there and they do something called a packing party as a part of their corporate social responsibility. So for like 1.5 hours, their staff will come down, their entire team will come down and they will pack the boxes that will go to the kids in the hospital. So that's one of our biggest kind of initiatives is to get more and more corporations doing it. And it's really a win-win because they have corporate social responsibility. They have, event dollars it's a staff building activity. So it kind of brings all of that in together. And then today, just to give you context, we ship to 300 hospitals across the United States. And I think we're at about 30 hospitals in Canada. So the organization, like if you go to our website, there's a map, you could see we ship literally across the country, all these different, we have waiting lists, really waiting lists of hospitals that want our kits. So the idea is, just spread the word if you know anybody who has an office or that what you think could want to do an office party or a packing party. That's like, we love doing that. And it's where we're looking for that win-win joy. One of our mottos is joy for you, joy for me with like an infinity sign.
Is this like also, you said it's a nonprofit, but where does the income come in? Like, do the corporates pay you for this? If you can just walk
Yeah.
us through the economics or the income generating avenues behind your business, I think that would help us understand the business a bit better.
Yeah, so this is the Spread the Joy Foundation is a 501(c)(3. There's no profit. The entire operation is run based on donations. So we basically, we're really savvy. We have a fantastic board. Like if you see how fast the organization has grown. When we started, it was me on my dining room table making these boxes. My husband coming home shouting because he's stepping on slime and he's stepping on Play-Doh and like neighbors dropping off stuff in my house. Like, oh, we saw this. Put them in your boxes. That's how we started. But today we have a warehouse, we have a 3PL, we import everything. Everything is custom branded, like with our own branding. And in terms of the income for the entire operation, it's corporation. So they would pay for their packing party. So they would cover the cost of their packing party. So they're paying for all the goods and everything that is going to be, well, they're not, they're donating. They're paying for their donation. that entire donation that goes to the hospitals. But we just kind of run it a little bit more like a business in the sense that, we don't wait. We kind of have a little bit forecasting now because we've been doing this for, 3-4 years. We have it under our belt. So we will import our goods with the belief that we're going to sell them. We'll import all of this in bulk. We host it in the warehouse, and we know that we have like these packing parties under our belt. We try to sell them a year in advance so that we are able to forecast that way properly, what the amount of inventory we bring in and what we're sending out.
Yeah.
So if you, oh, go ahead.
Carry on, Sabrina. No, you go ahead. I have lots of follow-up
So
questions.
if you have a corporation, say here, I'm in San Antonio, Texas, that is interested, you ship all the materials?
Yes, we have a complete SOP that's developed. We have a video that we show you. We ship all the materials. It comes in a pallet. We show you how to set up your table, down to a playlist you could play during your packing party.
I love that.
And even like we have like a little videos, like the whole thing, my story. We share everything for the packing party.
That is so neat. I love
That's
that
cool.
idea.
So imagine I'm Coca-Cola's director of CSR, okay, and I want to contact you, and I want to say, hey, listen, I want to do the logo of Coca-Cola will be in the paint book, and Santa Claus and all these, for the coloring. Do you say no, Coca-Cola? You're sugar. It's not a brand I want to be associated with. Like, who decides?
The board decides, and we've said no to, I don't want to name companies, but it's mostly our entire client. A big part of our clientele is pharma because, there's a lot of regulations against what pharma can give in the United States to children in hospital. There's some very strict standards about what pharma is allowed to give and what they're not allowed to give. So pharma will donate to us and we'll do everything. But we've only done it with like schools. Like with schools, we've allowed it, like when little kids will write a note or something and put it in the box that they want to send that. But generally, we don't allow a lot of that branding. I mean, I guess it's a case by case situation and the board would decide. But to date, the board has been very like, nope, this is, keep it just our organization, and all of their sponsorship and logos goes up, of course, when we do our gala, on our website and our newsletters, but not on the product itself. And another thing we're really strict about, and you have to be, it's not even like we're strict about it, but we never give the boxes to the children, and nor do any of our sponsors give the boxes physically to the children, because you cannot walk into a child's hospital room.
Sure.
Yeah.
You can't
B2B.
do that. And I think we give it to the hospital. Child Life Services is who we're empowering, and they're the ones who know the right time, the right moment, the right child to distribute the boxes to. So we really empower them in their work. We don't ever. That's a big question. We get, can we go deliver it to hospital? I'm like, sure, you can. You just have to leave it in the lobby. There's no going into children's rooms.
Right.
That's awesome.
I know. I think it's beautiful. So you have Spread the Joy. Tell me the difference between Spread the Joy and Open the Joy.
Yeah, so Open the Joy, crazy enough, was I originally wanted Open the Joy before my daughter, fell ill. I was starting a company. It was Open the Joy, and I originally wanted to be like a subscription service for parents who wanted to like be like the Pinterest mom, but who just didn't have the time to be the Pinterest mom. So like it would have like a water balloon fight in a box, like with little notes like, oh, it's 8 a.m. Meet me here. Here are your balloons. Meet me in the back. Like just everything so the Pinterest mom could be the Pinterest mom, but who didn't have time to. So that was my original idea for Open the Joy. But then when Arya was not well, what happened was that my entire life went to her care. There was no, doing all this stuff on the side. But my billing for Spread the Joy, my husband was like, well, this is a nonprofit. Like you can't just put this under your company. So I started putting everything under my company. And then my lawyer, my accountant was like, well, this is not a business. This is a nonprofit. What are you doing? This isn't a business. So that's when we finally like separated everything out. That became a 501c3, that became a nonprofit. By that time, I really feel like Open the Joy has good luck because its foundations are its foundations. What it did in its early years was just service the kids in the hospital. But what happened is that once that was established, Open the Joy, and once my daughter was a little bit better, I really wanted to develop something that focused on bringing out the emotional intelligence of a child. So I understood like there's so many forms of intelligence, and it's really like, kind of polarized. Like either you have your IQ or you have, your smarts or your heart, so, and I think really the most intelligent people are those that work those two together. So if you see your logo, it's like a brain and a heart, and it's really like working those two together. And I feel I got my smarts maybe from law school or from, that kind of a training, but I got my heart from what I went through with my daughter. Um, and I really feel like it's, I always say I did a PhD in the human spirit. I really did trying to understand how do you make, like, little slime will make somebody happy, really? What is it about kindness? What is it about, how do you develop confidence? What are and then I really got into the science of it. Like, why is it like, standing in the power pose for 30 seconds will actually make you feel more confident? Or what is it about resonance breathing that actually calms your vagus nerve and gets you to calm down? So I got into the science of it, and Open the Joy really makes products that focus on integrating better self-management, better self-care into a child's life. So that's Open the Joy's products. Open the Joy's, I always say it's a physical product. It's a toy, but that's not what we're selling. What we're selling is integration. The product is just there to get you to that stage of integration. So an affirmation mirror. We have an affirmation mirror. The mirror is just a physical reminder for you to create that self-talk. But the real product is that we hope the child grows up talking to themselves using those positive words.
So tell me about this affirmation mirror, for example. They receive a mirror and then they receive how to use the mirror. Like, tell yourself this. How does it work?
Yeah, so affirmation, I'm wondering if I have one here. I don't. The affirmation mirror, the way it is, it's a little toy that we developed for toddlers. So the toddlers, when they're tiny, they start playing and they look at the mirrors like even little babies. The whole idea is to wheel around it and that's all these positive affirmations like, I am powerful, I am kind, I love my body, I am enough, I can do hard things, all these beautiful affirmations. So the whole idea is that as the child starts to see their reflection in the mirror, those are the words that they're associating with their self-image. So that's the idea of the affirmation mirror. So the child is not going to play with that 2-year-old toy when they're 13 or 14 years old, but we're hoping when those neurons are developing in the child's mind, yep, that's what's developing within them.
That is absolutely beautiful.
Sabrina gets up every morning and says those words when she looks in the mirror anyway.
I do. Yeah. Let me tell you what happened the other day at school. So my daughter just started middle school and she's taking health class, and it's a class only girls in that class. And apparently the teacher asked the students, the girls, who here has ever had an insecurity? And, my daughter said she looked around and, everyone raised their hand, and then she didn't raise her hand. So the teacher said, okay, wait. She said, who has never had an insecurity? And so she raises her hand, and the teacher asked her, like, you've never been insecure about anything? And she explained what insecurities are. And she's like, no. She said, maybe one day I wanted straight hair instead of curly hair, but that's it. And she came home and told me that, and we talked through it. And she's like, Mommy, I'm happy. And I was like, wow. And, I think since then I've been more worried about what's going to take it away from her, but it reminds me, I love this mirror, and I feel like we need to give this, you need to create this for kids of all ages. Yeah. They're getting older and, they're exposed to social media. I think it's such a beautiful product.
Sabrina, I think your daughter and my daughter are like souls that are separated, because my daughter's the same. And I think the same thing about, like, I just love that she felt that good in her skin. Yes. And I'm thinking the same thing, like, is there an age at which she's going to stop feeling this good in her skin, Or
is there someone who's going to take that away?
Yeah. Or is there someone who's going to rob her of it, break her heart,
So hopefully our girls continue to be this strong and, secure with themselves and confident. Yeah. But my husband and I talk about emotional intelligence a lot. And it's something that, we didn't grow up with our parents talking to us about that.
So how do you define, how do you measure? I get the EQ versus IQ, but how would you measure EQ today on a child or an adult? I have no idea. Is there a definition? Is there a measurement?
Yeah, that's $1 million question, Amit. And that's really one of the big things that I'm working to solve. So just to give you the context of emotional intelligence and the history of it. So Goldman came out with his famous book. He's like the father of emotional intelligence. He came out with this in the 90s, and it hit the world, it hit Times News and everywhere, that, okay, it's not just this rational intelligence. There's another part of what makes us successful in life. And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the famous marshmallow test. that he so this famous marshmallow test that he conducted where he had like little children sit in front of a marshmallow, and I might be getting some of it wrong, so please feel free to fact check me, but they put these marshmallows in front of the children and they told them you can either eat it now or you can wait a certain amount of time. I don't know if it was 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or you'll get two marshmallows. And they did this test and they followed these children for like 30 years or something like that. And the children who had the self-restraint and were able to use that prefrontal cortex, the rational ability rather than the amygdala, which is just the reaction, apparently fared better in life, and like many success standards that they had placed out. So that was like, the big marshmallow test and his big study. And then what happened is, to your point, Ahmed, it went into schools. So Castle was formed. Castle is, was the body that Goldman formed to kind of bring emotional intelligence into schools. And now they have programming called social emotional learning, SEL. But the big problem, in my opinion, there's no way to test it. You could test math, you could test science, you could test the child's language skills. So while the government is pouring out, really a lot of money, billions of dollars into the social and emotional well-being of children because of the pandemic and the state of the children today, they're pouring this money into it, but there's no way to test the efficacy of these programs. And that's a big part of what I'm doing. I don't think you guys know this. I have a third company called InnerJoy, but that's a big part of our work at InnerJoy is we're trying to find out how we can use AI and we can use HRV, the physiology of the child, to now be the test, to tell us the truth. Those physiological markers, HRV is really a coherence between your heart and your breath. And you can see it like in charts. Like if your HRV is smooth and it's connected, that means you have high emotional intelligence, or they say emotional regulation. There's a higher sense of self-awareness, there's less reactivity, your parasympathetic nervous system is less activated. So that's one way that you could really tell it from physiological markers. So my mission or my life's vision is to say that we actually develop standardized testing for this so that children become more self-aware. And this is something that you're marking as you're growing up and you're going into adulthood. We check the BMI, we check so many different markers of health, but I feel like this needs to become a standard marker of health. And like, okay, this is not where it needs to be. What do we got to do about it? And there's tools out there. That's the thing that I found to be a big aha moment for me, was that there's so much out, like this isn't something that's fixed. We're neuroplastic beings. Like this is stuff that can be fixed. This is something that you can learn and grow over time. And what are the, see, you got me talking about stuff I love. Now I just will keep going.
It's fascinating. Honestly, it's truly fascinating because there's so many adults that are not self-aware. So if you could start targeting these children and testing them and teaching them at a young age, I mean, I would assume
Shalini,
this would be a better world.
I think so.
Yeah, Shalini, just so you know, our co-host here, Sabrina, is all about this. She's actually started a company with her husband called 5 Years of Fit.
5 years of Fit, yes.
And Sabrina will tell you a little bit about it, but it's all about what we're talking about. And mental health and EQ is key aspects to it. Sabrina, why don't you give us a...
It's a holistic health company, and we talk about the physical, the mental, the social, the financial, and the educational spheres, and how in the interplay between the 5 spheres. So, someone is mentally down for a period of time, and, why are we down? Is it because our physical sphere is imbalanced? Is it our financial sphere? And so what we realized with this company, as through our research, is our generation, my generation, Gen X, is not willing to budge a lot. So we said, they're like, oh, that's a great idea, but yeah, that's it. Like, I'm not willing to change and look at my life and adopt a process. So if we teach children to adopt a process at a young age, they will grow up having more balance and happiness in their life.
Absolutely. And it's the tools. I think it's the tools. I really like, Sabrina, what you said about the different spheres. For us, it's 3. It's psychology, physiology, and spirituality. So when I say spirituality, it's not any one religion. It's, really more think of consciousness work. But it's if I see, like, let's take something like gratitude, which is universally accepted as a good practice. There's no debate about gratitude. You tell me one world religion or one spiritual teacher or somebody who hasn't said that gratitude is key. Then you look at the physiology of how gratitude changes, how some of those emotions, like there's so many Harvard studies that have come out about just the practice of gratitude. And then the psychology of it, like the physiology, psychology, and spirituality. And if we hit those three, I always say we're on to gold. We hit gold. It means this is something that we need to now turn into a product. We need to turn into some type of a physical, tool that we could help incorporate for the child. But I love, love, love the work you're doing, Sabrina. And I think
Thank you
we
too.
should definitely connect after.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I see you creating this test. Like I'm manifesting it because I think this world really needs it.
Yeah.
I have something to ask both of you. It's something that I don't have to go through, touch wood, that you two probably have gone through or are going through. Is, in Europe and in the rest of the world, we don't have drills for children, in case a shooter comes to our schools, right? Like, it's not something we talk about, but that's something that you guys have to do. Or, I think, Sabrina, you mentioned Naima had that in school the other day. Is that something, Shalini, you've thought about, like, kids' happiness and having to discuss with them that potentially a shooter will come here and kill you for no reason? And, how does that affect this whole, what we're talking about, EQ?
Yeah, so I have never, all honesty, even had that discussion with my kids. I just don't even, like, I don't even, it's not even in the sphere of my mind that, that could, I mean, I guess anything could happen, but, I don't even think of that. I don't even bring that to the forefront, of our conversations. I focus a lot more on kindness and positivity and just making sure that they're good kids and, the little things that they face in their school and their schoolyard. But unfortunately, that is something that happens in the United States. Sabrina, I'm curious, have you ever had a discussion like that with your kids?
I actually, yes, and I have one, and like I said, she's 11, Naima, and the Uvalde is about an hour away from us.
Okay.
So when that shooting happened, I mean, you couldn't get
That,
away from the conversation. So I had to sit down and explain it to her. And last week alone, they had a drill, and it's a active shooter drill, and they tell the children that you're there. We're gonna do this drill tomorrow. She forgot, and as soon as the drill started, she came home and she said, "Mom, I started panicking." And then a friend of hers said, "No, it's just a drill." And she said, "Oh, thank God." And I said, "It's okay. You have to stay just like you stay positive." But it's unfortunately, she hears it all the time, and there's drills all the time. And it shouldn't be a fact of life. It shouldn't be a
it
way of life here in the
shouldn't.
US.
It
So
shouldn't.
we have to teach them, you want to be the hero, but you got to listen to what your teachers say. If they say don't grab it, but you grab your phone and you text me, and we're just prepping them in case. So unfortunately, I have had to have this conversation with her several times.
It's just like I just want to start crying. Like it's
It,
just so sad. It's like I just like we're one of the most United States is one of the most advanced countries in terms of academics, like one of the most in the world. But we have the highest rates of like anxiety, depression, according to the CDC guidelines for children. So it's like something's we're not going there's it's really the balance between the heart and the brain. We're getting something wrong here. If the basic skills that your advanced physics, but you don't know not to shoot another child, that there's something that's, I don't know, I feel like fundamentally missing. I think it was Aristotle who said educating the mind without educating the heart is really no education at all.
do you think, if there was a test to gauge someone's emotional intelligence, and I don't know if this is too an advanced question, we don't know this, but if we started testing children at a young age, say kinder, first, second grade, do you think, and we have a score, could we prevent teenagers from taking a gun to school and start shooting?
Or suicide?
I don't know. I don't know if we could, I don't know in terms of like scientific, if, we could prevent it. There'd have to be some kind of studies and things like that done. But I think teaching somebody, it's all about teaching somebody the space between whatever thought, emotion they're having and themselves. It's a small gap. You just have to teach people to enter that gap. I'm not going to shoot this person. I'm having a thought now that I should be shooting this person. once you create that space, that self-awareness comes in. And I think that's the fundamental skill that we need to teach children. There's all these different self-awareness, self-regulation, social awareness, all of these different words. But I think it's a fundamental skill of teaching a human, a child from a young age, that you stop. You don't react. You stop. That's all it is. You stop and you watch. You just watch. Watch what it is. Separate yourself from whatever's going on inside of you and just to watch that. And I think this is some of the incredible, I mean, this is again, if you go back to spirituality, if you look at the work of Michael Singer, this is like his entire thesis, like the watcher, just, and I actually emailed Michael Singer and was writing some of my program, and he's like, teach children to do it with funny voices. Oh, there's Mr. Anger again. That's so unfair. Oh, Mr. Tiger. And once they do it with funny voices in their head, they actually start watching themselves. They can see who is at the wheel. That's one of our big things that we teach children is who's at the wheel? Which emotion is at the wheel? Who's taken over? Have your emotions hijacked you right now? And how do you stop in that moment? How do you get out of that? Or like a thought storm. Are you in the middle of the tornado? Is your body, heart, mind racing? Is all the physiological factors there? Once you start to recognize these things, then only can the next steps be taken. And I think that's the key skill that we're trying to teach kids from a young age. And I want to share this with you guys. I don't know where you want to put it into the podcast, but I want to really share this with you where is this? Oh, it's the book that the computer's on. That, I'm sure you've read this, Sabrina. I can never pronounce his name. Bessel van Der's book, The Body Keeps Score.
I haven't. What, The Body Keeps the Score? Okay.
So he's like one of the kings of this sphere of trying to understand, to teach it, understanding trauma and how trauma affects the bodies, and going up to the watchtower, which is the prefrontal cortex, and starting to have that kind of awareness. He did his own HRV, like his own emotional testing in his HRV. And he goes, I was shocked to find out it was so low. Can you imagine? He was like, I was shocked to find out that I wasn't coherent. And he goes, but he did the work and he got there. It's all about doing the work.
Exactly. When you mentioned the emotions, the different voices, have you guys seen Inside Out?
Yeah.
Have you?
The animated movie?
Yes.
Yeah, I just saw it like a month ago or something, the movies.
I love it. I love it. And I think about it, especially the second one where anxiety comes in.
Yeah.
And Joy is trying to fight and, stop anxiety from controlling the body. I was like, oh my goodness, this is it happens to me.
That movie was so well researched. And I mean, we actually had our staff day, like our staff outing, and we all went to see Inside Out together. That's what we did, because that's really our line of work. And I can tell you that movie was so incredibly well researched. The power of your imagination is truly what you can use either for you or against you. And that's what anxiety is. And it takes over the power of your imagination and it turns it against you. And when they had that scene where anxiety's up there, she's like, more ideas, throw them up. And I'm like, wow, it was so well researched,
so well made. Yes.
I took my boys for that movie, and literally the next movie was Aliens, next door. I wanted to just leave them there. I said, this is going to be another woke Pixar Disney movie, and I'm going to go watch Aliens. And I said, you know what? Let's give it a shot. And I actually thought it was entertaining, I must admit.
Yeah, well made. Very well made.
I saw Aliens the next day.
Glad you got to see it, Emmett.
Which was way better, I must say.
Shalini, we ask all our guests what success means to them. So please tell us what success means to you.
I think for me, a balance between my own heart and mind. I think that's a delicate dance that I walk every day. And I think the days that I go to bed feeling like I walked that dance well are the days I feel was a successful dance. If someday my heart takes over, the emotions takes over, I'm not as in control, I feel that's not great. If some days I'm too analytical, I think that heart, that dance between the heart and the mind is where I feel success lies.
I love that.
You are a true Cindy. You have 2 kids that are young. One of the kids has been through a hell of a journey, and yet you're leading 3 companies, right? So, I mean, your husband must be uber successful, or what does your husband do, if you don't mind me asking?
My husband actually is also, it's funny that you're saying this, Amit, because yes, and these are entrepreneurs, but he's actually in pharma. So he works for a company called Bion Pharma. He's one of the founders in that company. So he makes, I should know his job a little bit better, but he makes he makes drugs that are generic. So he'll make like Tylenol, but he'll make the generic version of Tylenol. I don't know if he actually makes that specific drug, but that's what he does. He makes generic pharmaceuticals. So he's actually an attorney as well. So he is their VP of legal and business development. So he actually worked in, kind of the Wall Street lifestyle. We lived in New York City. Then the kids were born. We moved inland. But so now that's what he does. But Amit, he is retired in the sense that he still goes to work. He still works very well. He works very hard. But my husband is very bad. He's somebody who has conquered that balance between the heart and the mind, completely conquered it. Like he's just so, like when he comes home, sometimes I'm shocked that he has such a stressful job because he comes home and he's like stealing my daughter's food out of her plate to get her to laugh and like taking the dog. And then I'm like, you can't tell that this man has a stressful job,
Yeah.
He's able to leave it there.
At the beginning, he sounded like Vivek Ramaswamy on his way, the farmer company and, a successful wife. And then you said he has a mind and heart one. So I was like, okay, fine. I'm not going to compare the two.
I always say, like, my husband's like, he tells me, like, what are you doing? Like, just, I think because I lost is, I don't know if that's the right word to use, but many years during my daughter's illness, I didn't have a career. I was really primarily focused on her care. And, as an attorney, I saw all of my people in my graduating class starting to make partners, starting to, so I always felt this kind of insecurity that I really got to catch up. And I was always like, I tell my husband, when the sun is shining, you make hay. Things are good now. Everybody's healthy. We make some hay. And he's like, when the sun is shining, you enjoy the sunshine. And I'm like, okay. But that's the difference between me and my husband.
That's a good one.
That's great. Who inspires you?
The quantum field. I don't know if that's the answer you wanted to hear. I feel my own stillness, and when I can enter moments of darkness and stillness, and I don't mean darkness as in a negative way, but kind of like through my own meditation, if I could enter, spaces of stillness where there's just nobody, no one, and it's just me and, that divine creator, that's where I feel my most inspiration. And that's where I feel like I'm most at home.
I mean, that is a phenomenal answer because everyone else has answered a person, right? And I think
it's the universe or the mechanics or the divine intelligence. I don't know if there's so many words for it, but that's what inspires me. And it's seeing it, how it reveals itself in all these little magical, mystical ways. I mean, that's the dance of life. That's really what inspires me.
I think Naval Ravikant said it, right? He said, at the beginning, in your 20s and your 30s, you're just trying to make friends and impress people and, get the opposite sex to be attracted to you. And only do you realize later on in life that life is actually an inside game. And it's all about your mind and how you feel at inner peace with yourself. And that's when you're truly happy and truly one in life.
Correct.
I mean, he says
100%.
it, obviously, he says it much more eloquently, but we get the gist, right? Like life is an inner person game and not an outer person game.
There's this beautiful quote from this children's book called The Boy, the Horse, the Mole, and the Fox. And it says, "Isn't it funny that we could only see the outside, but everything happens on the inside?" And I think that's like one of my biggest inspiration for what I do with my company is to develop insight that you could start to see what's going on inside of you from a physical, from a psychological, from a spiritual perspective, that you develop that true insight.
I want to go back a little bit, Sabrina, before we go into the rapid fire.
Sure.
I read or I saw somewhere that your products are in Target and Amazon and are those the subscription-based products, or you're selling your products as well on a retail level so we can put the links in the bottom of our show notes and spread more joy?
Yeah, so I never did the subscription box. I went completely, that was my original idea, but I never ended up doing it. When I went after those 4 years I spent with my daughter, when I finally went back to work, I actually did it as kits and activities to help children feel better. That was kind of how I started. So I don't have a subscription service today, but yes, our products are sold on multiple different platforms.
Internationally? Have you opened up
We've
internationally?
started, yeah, Canada. We've started. We have we have a distributor now in the UK. So we started Canada, UK. We started translation. So a lot of our products are now translated to French, which was so exciting to me because
cool.
I grew up. I was like, when is French ever going to serve me in my life?
Now it does.
And the first translation we did was into French. It was crazy.
What about Middle East, Dubai, India, or talking to Hamleys and the big toy companies?
Yeah, so Hamleys would really be, I think, more or less fall under our distributor in the UK, but we have not hit India or the Middle East or any of those countries as yet.
We'll talk offline.
Okay.
So we always have a rapid fire at the end, and they're fun questions most of the time. Sometimes they're serious, but most of the time they're fun questions. So, first thing that comes to your mind when we ask
Okay.
you, okay? If you could have dinner with anyone living or past, who would it be?
Mother Teresa.
Good one.
What's your unusual either morning routine or physical activity or something that you do which is not very common?
I say thank you every time I pee. I do because my daughter lost her
Yeah.
kidneys.
Oh,
Yeah.
my
I mean, she
gosh, I
has them
love
back.
that.
But every time I go pee, it's like, oh, this is my moment
You're
of
so
gratitude, and
grateful.
I say thank you every time I pee.
It's the
Oh
little
my
things that matter, right?
God.
Yeah, a good shower, a good dump in the morning. These are little things that matter.
Wow. Okay, that one got me. Yeah. One book you recommend to others.
Maybe The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer.
Okay.
Okay. If you were a recipe, what ingredients would you say are essential for everyone to include? If joy were a recipe.
Of joy were a recipe, definitely giving back, 100%, spending some time alone, and laughter.
What advice would you give to parents looking to instill a sense of joy and resilience in their children?
I think just spend more time with them. I think that's all they really need. Like, we think they need more tech or they need more classes or they need more schooling. Like, my daughter's so happy if I just go into the kitchen with her, and I don't go in often. I have to be honest, but like, that's all she wants. She just wants to cut some beets with me, you know? So I think it's just a simpler, the kids are actually very simple. It's just the simpler things.
Sabrina, last one.
Yes. Go ahead. Do you want to
Okay.
ask it?
I'm trying to think of one. I didn't like the one I wrote down. No,
This is
especially
fun.
after
Keep them coming. I'm actually surprised by my answers as well.
They're great
your,
answers and they're quick.
your answers are they're impeccable and they're sharp and they're fun. So that's why I want to change my last question. Okay, let's go to the brand one. You know, if you had to tattoo two brands on your arms and those tattoos you had that product or service free for the rest of your life, what would those two brands be?
Open the Joy and Inner Joy, my two companies.
So, not valid. Those are already free for you for the rest of your life. What is Cynthia? She chose her own.
Something that I could
She
get
chose her own
free for the
brands.
rest of my life. God, maybe PNC Bank, unlimited cash, unlimited line of credit. That would be fantastic.
PNC Bank. That's
Uh,
an American bank. I don't know it.
yeah,
Yes,
PNC
yes.
is our current bank, but that I would take that unlimited cash for the rest of my life.
That's a good one. A
Um,
bank.
That's a good one.
it's like if you're asking me like the genie who keeps giving. I'm thinking of that,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
question. Like, you can't ask the genie for more wishes. And the second brand, maybe like Whole Foods, where I could just get really good groceries for free.
Do you have any questions for us? I mean, this is
Yeah.
really. I know it's an interview, but it's more like really a conversation to get to know you. I really enjoy getting to know you. Where did you say you live? What city?
In Princeton, New Jersey.
In New Jersey. Okay, great. So next time we're in New York, we'll reach out.
Yeah, but tell
Um,
me about how you guys started this, and a little bit more about your mission here. And it's so exciting that you're doing this.
Yes.
yeah,
I mean, who
Sabrina.
you start? You go ahead. This was
No,
your idea.
I've been enjoying podcasts for a long time, and I most of the podcasts I enjoy, like the Pivot or All in Pod, podcasts where there's at least two people. And Sabrina and I we're first cousins, and we didn't actually speak to each other much before this. We would just meet on holidays or once a year type of thing. And I think this has been a good way to enhance our personal relationship with each other.
Absolutely.
And I believe podcasting is probably the best format to share stories. And I think storytellers are, I think, one of the keys to success in life. I think networking is also a very important thing in life, and it opens doors. And that's another reason to do the podcast. And I think the most important thing is I feel I'm at the age now with 3 kids under 10 where I want to spread the knowledge, not the joy, but spread the knowledge. And I want them to watch these podcasts in the future and realize that actually we're not only meant to be engineers or doctors. We can literally do whatever the F we want. And I mean, the 50 plus episodes we've had, there's no two people that have done something remotely the same.
Yeah.
Like literally from life coaches to people saving lives to lawyers to just the amount of things that we in the Indian diaspora are doing out there. Everything is so interesting. And like, tomorrow we're releasing an episode about a guy in Poland who has launched a beer brand in Poland. And that happened
Wow.
because some rice got stuck that he was sending during the Ukraine, invasion
When
of
the war
Russia,
started.
Russia, Ukraine thing. And instead of assuming that dead stock, he actually figured out, okay, do I sell this to pets? No. Rice fermentation. Let me create a beer. What do I call it? And he came up with, I don't want to disclose it now because we're releasing it tomorrow, but every story has just been phenomenal. We had a guy who sold his company for $700 million, became $100 million plus cash, and the next year he started another unicorn. Instead
And
of
the
going to
most
the
humble
beach.
person, very
Yeah, and,
humble.
and he's a humble guy under 30. If I was a single girl, I'd be like all over that, right? So um, I think it's just been a fun ride. We love. I'm a talker, and I think podcasting also teaches you to become a listener. So that's a skill set that I didn't have. So all in all, I think those are roughly what we're trying to do. And the I in Indian is for inspiring, and the explorers is for entertaining. We're not here to. We don't want to be a TED talk. We don't want to get people to show off or talk about their company for an hour. It's more just interesting conversations, and we happen to become friends with most of them. And so when we go to their cities, we have a drink and get to know them even better. Sabrina, anything to add?
You totally filled that, said that
Yeah,
perfectly. It's just we were excited, and I think it exceeded our expectations what this was going to do,
we're enjoying
personally
it.
and
Wow.
for others.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we would like this to become a thing in terms of an income generating
Hmm.
sponsors. I think we have 2.5, 3,000. We don't really check or any comments, or we don't really we don't have meetings to discuss how do we grow this. We're just enjoying the ride, and we obviously have other income generating uh, employment
Thank
and
goodness.
and businesses that let's just say we live off. But this is our passion. Some people like to read, we like to talk. So
I love it. And I have a question for you guys. What of these different 50 stories that you've heard, I'm always about integration, right? Because we read so much, we hear so much. What has gone into you? Like, is there some specific story or some specific answer, or something that you heard that now reframed the way you think about something or the way you approach life or a tool that you've developed?
Sabrina,
I
you
think,
first. I'll answer.
yeah, there's been a couple. I think one of the biggest ones is resilience. The theme, the recurring theme of this podcast is success. And our guests, no matter, it's very subjective. Their answers are subjective, but also most of them have said they have failed, again, subjective, once, twice, several times, and they just kept picking up and moving forward. And for me, that has resonated. You could just pick up and keep going, learn from that and keep moving forward. And so that's one that has really resonated. I mentioned he mentioned the young gentleman who sold his company for $700 million, and I chimed in and said how humble he was. That resonated in me. You could be extremely successful financially, or in other parts of your life, and you just keep humble, and there's gratitude, like you say. So I think every guest has been so unique that you pick up something or another from them, but those two have really stuck out to me.
And for me, it's another two, completely different, right? For
Hmm.
me, it was there's the author Varsha, what's her name, Bajaj?
Varsha Bajaj,
Yeah,
yeah.
who as a novelist, child, she writes books on kids, and she woke me up to the importance of librarians.
Oh, that's right.
uh, because like she said, the librarians are the ones who recommended books to her, and like the knowledge that they gave her. And I was thinking author, Amazon, end user. And then now every time I go to my kid's school or I go to a library, I'm like super like nice to the
Oh,
librarian, and I realize what they do. And it's that middle role that you don't really think about, And so every time now in a situation, you think about what that actual person is going through, and how actually you don't think they're relevant in what they're doing, but actually for them, that's their life. And it's those little details that are great, right? So the other one was like that guy whose grandfather was told by Gandhi, Mahatma, when he
yeah.
told him, I want to go to America to study economics, like most Indians go to America for business or money. And Gandhi said, don't be stupid. If you want to learn economics, go to this village. And literally, third generation on, that's the guy we interviewed. He's still there in that village in India. And his mother was the doctor slash surgeon. And so 4 hours before the surgery, she would actually take out her blood and make sure that that blood was ready to be used for the surgery that she herself performed in that village. And Sabrina and I are thinking we have good mothers. And then we hear these stories and we're like, man, you just made my mom look bad. And it was such an inspiring, first she's talking about Gandhi and all the Gandhi stories that we'd never heard of. And then we had someone talk about the partition and how violent it actually was. And our grandparents, being Sindhi, they don't talk to us about the partition and what they went through. They just show off that, I walked in to this city with $1 in my pocket and now I have $1 million. And it's always the financial thing because we're Sindhis, but we don't care about money. Sabrina and I want to know about the emotional journey that you went through, the perseverance, the grit. And those stories we find entertaining and humorous, right? And that's what we want to get in this podcast. And you have to drill down. And we've had nobody famous, no celebrity. We don't care. We want to know the real stories of the real Indian diaspora.
Yeah.
And that's what we bring out in this podcast. And for those people like who hear the podcast, i.e., our mothers, my mom will just send a WhatsApp, that girl was so impressive. And I'm like, yeah, mom, she's only 22. And like, we've heard unbelievable young girls who have been so inspiring to us. We had
Yes.
the girl from Harvard, the one who did the Harvard,
Commencement
the
speech.
commencement speech. Harvard, can you hear us? The day after the 13 students were rejected of getting their diploma. This girl is a 22, 24-year old.
22-year-old.
Yeah, and the guts to speak in front of 35,000 people and put Harvard in its place. It's like, wow. I concluded the episode with, I have 3 sons under 10. I concluded the episode with note to boys, date a girl from Harvard, because she was so impressive, apart from being
Yeah, a
beautiful.
22-year-old motivating us,
Yeah.
who are 26 years older
Yeah. And
than
her
her. And
speech
I
is,
mean, just so inspiring.
yeah. So yeah, that's
Thanks for
what we're
asking
doing.
us those questions. I don't think anyone's ever really asked us what we've learned from,
Well,
like,
I find it so
specifically.
fascinating. Like, I think I just love what you're doing because
Thank you.
I could just imagine myself like just soaking in what people are saying. Like, I'm the same. I love to hear people's stories, like their authentic stories, and
Yes.
I could just imagine just soaking that in and what
This
stays
has
in you, what
really
shapes
filled
you.
our educational spheres
Sure. And if
completely.
there's one episode we can recommend, just one, there's a guy called Rajesh Sethi.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, I just, that's it. I just want to mention his name because he was so inspired and so inspiring that I think after him, the next 15 episodes were all introductions by him. And that's what makes us proud, right? Like right now I'm on LinkedIn, randomly researching and messaging people, and it's like dating, one of every 10 people reply, right? But with Rajesh, he every week or month sends me a message. Hey, I just met this guy, he's in Silicon Valley. I just met this guy, inspiring story. And this girl's incredible, and she happens to be a 23-year-old girl. I'm like, how is a successful Silicon Valley guy introducing me to a random 23-year-old girl in the other side of the world? And that's inspiring to us. So
Yeah.
The
Rajesh,
networking. The
yeah, the
networking
networking.
is very
Yeah.
strong. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to put you in touch as well with a girl, Payal Mirchandani, who was a guest, who actually runs one of the largest toy and children's distribution company in Middle East.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
I think your product would be perfect for her. She'll love it. So, you know,
Well, thank
um,
you.
it's been a joy. We're going to spread the word. We're going to put all the links on our show notes, and we just want to thank you for coming on and having a good time and conversation with us. Thank you.
No, thank you guys. I'm so glad that I'm here. I really am, and I'm very inspired by what you guys are doing. I find, oh, I wish I could do this too. That's what you guys are making me feel like. Like I just listen to podcasts so much because I love hearing people's stories. So like I'm just thinking, oh, is there a way that I could, is there a world in which that I could actually just sit down and like, because it's different when you hear it, when you're actually speaking to the person, it's, there's a different interaction.
Right.
So congratulations. I'm so glad you guys just went for it and did it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That means a lot. And thank you again for being with us. What you're doing is so inspirational. I actually this morning told my sister-in-law's visiting and she has a 9-month old. So I was telling her about your product. So you'll probably be getting another order soon from her. So, but keep doing what you're doing. And I can't wait to see what you do with, this research that you're on top of. I'm looking forward to reading more about that
We want the formula. We want the formula for
and
EQ.
changing the world. So
The formula is simple. It's never complicated. It's your breath.
The
Just
breath.
breathe.
just breathe.
A 1 minute of like we have a product for this actually, but 1 minute can change the course of your entire day. Like one moment, like if you're able to be self-aware and stop and breathe for 1 minute,
Yeah.
1 minute, just one, like put a timer on. It could change the course of the entire day.
Are you a yoga, Pilates, or meditation lady? All three.
Meditation and yoga a little bit. Like I'm not a teacher or anything like that, but I love to do yoga whenever I can. Yeah.
That seems to be a recurring theme amongst our guests too.
Yeah.
Meditation, yoga. Yeah.
Yeah.
It says a lot about
Ice baths.
successful and people and leaders. So, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so
Well,
much for
thank
being with
you.
us. Have a beautiful day. Everyone, this has been another episode of Indian Explorers, and we will put all the links to spread the joy, open the joy in our notes. So check them out. Thank you,
You've
everyone.
had,
Have a great
you've had too
day.
much joy, Sabrina. Too much joy
Too
has
much
come on.
joy.